Hello everyone. Today I will finally be announcing all the winners of my 60k subscriber contest. Now, first of all, people told me when I announced this contest that the only people that were going to win was going to be like super unicoms. I got a bunch of complaints like, wow, nice contest, Flamu. Only the top 1% of your subscribers have any chance of winning. It's only going to be unicoms, blah 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 blah. And not a single winner in any of the categories that I chose is Unicum. Not even close. The majority of the winners are around 50% win rate. Like, slightly, very slightly above average. So, I guess that kind of goes to show that it doesn't matter how good you are, you can still play for the team. Playing for the team is still universal, regardless of how individually skilled you are. And I think this competition kind of highlighted that because, well, the highest win rate player that won a category is this one, the Mayoko player here, Burning Love from the C region. He wins the plane shooting down planes contest, which means of course he's going to be picking up a shiny new Atlanta for his efforts. And his win rate I think was something like 57%. And this is the highest across the board for the entire contest. And I had a bunch of complaints about how people were going to rig and people were going to cheat, and I swear people have such low expectations of the average teammate or average player here, it seems. Because I didn't see any rigging replays. I didn't see... In fact, I think every single contestant is also playing solo. No one even made divisions or anything. It was completely fair and square across the board. And, for example, this Mayoko player here, he's playing solo. He didn't queue up with a division, he was playing solo in his Mayoko. And he's already been racking up, as you can see, already been racking up the planes. He saw Podvoisky smoke up, so he dropped some torps, he scored some citadels on one of the cruisers. And so far, his game is starting out pretty okay. The team's game, so on the other hand, is a bit questionable since they're giving up a lot of caps, but then again, with no destroyer here to help him, he might be struggling a bit to get much done since their only destroyer died right at the start. However, he quickly equalizes. Those torps on the Podvoisky give him a devastating strike, so both teams are without their DD now. And he actually scores another torp on the Atlanta as well. Since we're going to speed up a bit, since he's just going to sit here and farm a bit of damage, which is perfectly fine, but considering this aspect of the contest was all about shooting down planes, what we're more interested in is of course his reaction here. He sees planes popping up on the minimap in front of him, so naturally he abandons his damage farming and he goes straight for them. Since I think at this point he's realized, I don't know, he's most likely AA build, but that's not to say that you can't go for like huge damage numbers in the Mayoko as well. I got a guy who sent me a Mayoko replay with 254,000 damage. The problem was it was in a previous patch, so it wasn't... I couldn't feature it because it was in the previous patch, and I did specify in the rules it had to be in the current patch, so old replays didn't work. But still, that did show that the massive damage potential of the Mayoko is certainly there, and I think people underestimate its potential. Yes, it's one of the older cruisers in the game. It's been around for ages, but it's still a massive threat and just a very powerful cruiser for its tier. It's got good armor, a lot of damage, good torps, and of course, if you do spec for the AA, especially with defensive AA active, it's surprisingly effective at chopping down these planes. Like, this is a Kaga. Of course, the planes are going to be one tier lower, but I mean, he's having absolutely no issues just chewing up these planes left, right, and center. And once again, a nice chunk of planes added. The issue is, of course, his team is not really having the best of times. Half his team is already dead, which is probably not the best possible start, considering he himself has killed a DD, he's slaughtered a bunch of planes, and I mean, in general, I think he's been playing a pretty solid game. He hasn't really given up any health, but as a cruiser, in the early game, that's usually a good thing. You shouldn't be trading your health in the early game. Once again, we should speed up again, since he's just getting back into the action. He shot down the planes he could, and he's repositioning himself back into the action to pick another fight, and of course the opportunity to shoot down more planes. Problem is, his team is still absolutely melting around him. Oh no. He's parked nose in. The problem is, of course, no doubt he would want to push into this cap. The problem is that there's literally half of the entire enemy team waiting for him in that cap, and even when he tries to play just a little bit aggressive, well, he's being shot at from every possible flank. His team has pretty much collapsed entirely, and pushing nose into a Nelson is not exactly a fun time, because if the Nelson shoots AP, which he should, especially at this close range, he will easily overmatch his armor, which means angling doesn't really work against the Nelson. The Nelson will just blap him with those huge guns, which we will probably see quite soon. Well, if he shoots HE or AP... Oh, it's AP. He turns to try to mitigate it. He dodges the most. One shell does hit him, and as you can see, it deals raw damage. There's no bouncing that caliber for a Mayoko, well, for any cruiser at this tier. He's trying to push in, but how do you push into this mess? He's getting a lot of plane kills again, though. I think he used his defensive AA maybe a bit too early. But then again, considering how close the points are, or well, how low the points are, the game could practically end at any point. So probably better to play it safe and try to shoot down as many planes as possible before the end. What is actually very amusing is that only 3 people sent in replays for shooting down planes. Only 3 people! I think there was an 11 plane kill replay, a 22 plane kill replay, and this one, which was 38 plane kills. So congratulations to Burning Love for picking up an Atlanta with 38 plane kills. And oh my god, his team is garbage. Our second contestant, wielding the extremely squishy tier 7 cruiser, the Shores, hails from NA, Mobius Legacy. And he was the one who topped the scoreboard for the highest damage dealt. Now here we see some basic, it's sped up, some basic cruiser gameplay. He sails up to sea, he parks behind a convenient island, he pops the spotter plane, and he just starts dealing damage. That's what you want to do in the Shores. This is exactly what you want to do. You don't want to rush in and die in a cruiser. Your biggest strength is your DPM, and that's something the Shores is especially good at. Especially if you're up tiered against tier 8s, which he is in this exact situation. However, even the best laid plans can go to waste when a extremely talented battleship captain decides to not look where he's sailing and pushes you out from behind cover, full broadside to the entire enemy team. So, a little golf clap for our pink battleship friend here. Luckily, Mobius Legacy quickly turns away and he manages to angle enough to, well, not get absolutely devastated in this situation. And of course he's instantly bailing because, well, you don't want to stick around in a Shores in front of the entire team. Even angled though, you can see the type of damage the Shores takes. It has no armor. You want to play the way he played earlier, which is behind islands, in cover, and in general not tank. You don't want to be the tank because you can't tank in this thing. It's literally one big massive floating citadel. Luckily, his battleship teammate, I say teammate extremely loosely, is actually providing quite a good distraction right now, because he's decided he's going to rush into the cap, even though pretty much half the entire enemy team is there and he's going to be surrounded from every single angle. Or if he pushes in there, he still decides that's exactly what he wants to do. So he's providing a pretty excellent bullet sponge for as long as he won't live long, of course, but for as long as he will live, he will provide a nice little bullet sponge. And Mobius Legacy, realizing this, has just slowed down, parked in the back, and he's just gonna continue farming damage, which is exactly what he should be doing. And he already has racked up a high caliber 138,000 damage, and well, 140k now, very quickly farming in that damage. And this is of course what you want to do in a cruiser. That's why cruiser damage is rated in DPM, because that's what you do, damage per minute. That's how it should be counted. And we can speed up again as we watch our battleship teammate pretty much evaporate, while of course Mobius Legacy capitalizes on this to deal as much damage as possible to the enemy team from somewhat safety. And once again, I'm not criticizing, I think this is excellent, this is exactly what you should do. Pushing into that cap was guaranteed suicide, it was good he didn't do the same thing. And now we got a bit of an interesting situation as he repositions. The spotter plane is spotting the poor Farragut. And oh lord, you do not want to be this close to Shores in a Farragut. Well, in any destroyer, really. Yes, the Farragut can probably citadel the Shores, but the problem is, at this point blank range, he's pretty much going to land every single shell, and Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. The Farragut actually got incredibly fortunate and he managed to get a detonation out of it. The 11th shell that hit him caused a detonation. He would have died regardless, but thanks to that detonation he actually walks away with 10 flags, so pretty fortunate situation for him. And we're at this point, look at those damage numbers. Look at him rack up that damage. We're, what, halfway marker soon? And, well, past the halfway marker. Actually, can I see that? No, it's a bit blurry because I'm looking at it from the small screen. Sorry about that. But I mean, his damage numbers are obscene, especially considering he's a tier 7 against tier 8s. And once again, there were a lot of complaints about, oh, it's gonna be so easy to win the cruiser damage competition. All I need to do is bring a division and smoke up my cruiser and blah 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 blah. I didn't see a single one of those replays, and once again, the winning replay in this case is from solo play. And from a Shores of all things, against tier 8s. There's no foul play here. This is just a cruiser player playing quite well. Although, I do disagree with this. He's kind of letting this New Mexico get away. I think he should have slowed down. He should have stayed so he had firing arcs on that New Mexico. I think he could have easily secured a kill on the New Mexico. Yes, it would have meant eating a bit of damage, but angled at range, it probably wouldn't have been the end of the world, especially as this King George keeps shooting HE. So the alpha would probably not have been that bad, and I think he could have secured the New Mexico kill. Still though, he's playing it safe, and I can't blame him for it. The Shores is very, very squishy, and especially against battleships, playing it safe, especially if you're really trying to make sure you want to win the competition, this is probably a pretty wise decision, and not really something that I can complain too much about. We're speeding up again as he's playing what I'll consider very basic, very good cruiser gameplay. He is farming damage. He's sitting in safety, he's dealing a ton of damage, he's putting a ton of pressure. Basically, he's either going to get these kills or his team is going to get these kills. And I have no complaints. Although right now, when the New Mexico is spotting him with a plane, he should be popping defensive AA. Because this plane, he could easily shoot it down. There's no carrier, so he doesn't need to save his defensive AA. And in these situations, for example, when his bloom disappears and he's only plane spotted, there's nothing preventing him from popping defensive AA to get rid of this plane, like right now. He's only plane spotted, he could easily get rid of it. But he is not. Luckily his AA is strong enough to shoot down the plane by itself, but a bit of a missed opportunity. If he hadn't been quite that lucky, the spotting could have messed with him and so forth. Small details, nitpicking in this case, but still something to keep in mind. And it appears he is planning on rushing down the New Mexico. That King George is pretty much dead. He's done so much damage to him, so at this point he's going for the aggressive play. 1 versus 1 against a battleship is always going to be iffy in the Shores, especially at these point-blank ranges, because, well, the New Mexico will overmatch his armor, and even when angled, yep, that's a lot of damage. Although the New Mexico kind of misfired. He aimed too much for the belt. At this point though, the Shores should switch to AP. At this point blank range, AP can easily pen his upper belt and just get huge pen damage. But he's playing it safe and he's going for those YOLO torps. He did use the torps earlier, they're only 4 kilometers of range. He used them earlier a bit in waste, I guess a bit of a panic reaction. But this time the torps are quite good. And, well, if the New Mexico had turned earlier, he might have been able to mitigate the damage. But he turned too late and the Shores secures the kill. He does get, at this point I'm probably going to end this because the game, he does get like 5,000 extra damage on the Cleveland, but there's not much to talk about there since he doesn't get the kill. Ultimately though, he ends up with a pretty massive 256,000 damage in a Shores. He easily tops the scoreboard for his team and he wins the Roma in this competition. Well done, well deserved. Our third contest is for the most tanking done in a tier 7 battleship. Now I won't be showing this entire battle because this was one of those standard C server standard battles where practically nothing happened for the first 15 minutes. So I couldn't even be speeding it up because it was just basically both teams base camping for a long time until his team started losing slowly but steadily. However, that does not change that Hikarikaze, who sent in this replay, was absolutely the deserving winner of this tanking contest. With the Colorado, he manages to amass an absolutely ridiculous 3.7 million potential damage. Now, no one else even broke 3 million. and he sent in 3.7 in a Colorado. So there can be no doubt about the winner of the tanking contest, and he absolutely deserves to pick up the Massachusetts. Once again though, this was one of those cases where it's not some super unicum, some superstar winning these contests. It's been like this in every one of these contests. No, it's people who are playing the ship the way it's meant to be played, who are fulfilling their role. And that was the idea of this contest, and I'm very happy to see this, that we're basically getting average players who are winning all these awards, and they're winning them not because they are doing some sort of superstar amazing, well, the Shores game was pretty superstar amazing, but in general it's not because they're doing something magical or impossible. No, they're just playing the ship the way it's meant to be played. And I am very, very happy to see that. A bit of an unlucky dispersion there. He does manage to score the Confederate though, but at this point his team is collapsing. There's only, you can see how many ships are still alive, and there's like less than a minute left. At this point though, it's pretty obvious that he will not be getting alive out of this situation. What is important to note, by the way, that this guy, he used stock heal. He only had 4 heal consumables. If he'd been using the premium heal, he would have had a 5th heal, and he would probably have easily broken 4 million potential. So, very well done to Hikarikaze. Well deserved. Only 78k damage, and sadly the game doesn't really reward that tanking, but when we look at the detailed score, well, that potential damage, and eating that much damage with only 4 heals, very well done, deserving winner, congratulations. Our final winner is from the spotting contest, and hailing from the EU we have L_Steg, who took the first place in the spotting contest in a Shiratsuyu. Now, what I find especially amusing in this is that according to the personal rating on WoW's numbers, L_Steg is a bad player, according to this. Yet when it comes to the spotting competition, he managed to beat all the unicums, all the super unicums, everyone else with the most spotting of them all. So I am so happy about how this competition turned out. I'm so happy so that anyone had a chance to win, regardless of individual player skill. Anyone playing the objective, playing for the team, had the potential to win this contest. And this makes me very, very happy. And huge congratulations to L_Steg, because he takes home a USS Kid for his performance in the Shiratsuyu. Now, I do want to criticize him I do want to criticize him here when it comes to fighting this carrier. He should absolutely have shot the torps earlier, as he was closing the distance before the guy noticed him and actually started moving away. Also, he should be using his guns. He should be shooting, he should be shooting, he should be shooting. You have guns, use them. There's no reason to sit there and aim your torps forever. Just use your guns in between and then use your torps and so forth. Like, all this time he could be starting fires, and the fires might prevent him from taking off planes, because if this carrier knows how to manual drop, then the Shiratsuyu is going to have some serious issues here. And he should absolutely be shooting all the time. There's no reason to be closing the distance this much, as either just should be using all the guns all the time. There comes a drop, he's not really reacting. Luckily the carrier does not know how to manual drop, so the Shiratsuyu has no issues turning into the torps. That's good at least. Turning into the torps is the way you should always turn. If you try to turn out, life becomes a lot harder. So turning in is absolutely the correct choice. And honestly, he should be turning more broadside, shooting more guns. One fire is enough. You landed a torpedo, which means that the guy has used his damage con. One fire now means he can no longer send any planes to threaten you. So I would absolutely love to see more broadside being given and more guns being used. Bit of a missed opportunity here. On the other hand, when it comes to the competition, he's actually kind of accidentally racking up even more potential damage, because he's spotting the carrier and his team is shooting the carrier, so he's getting even more potential damage, or more spotting damage here. Ultimately though, at this point, since the guy is unfired and he's probably being spotted by someone else already at this point, he really should just be gunning him down. At this point blank range, well, at any range really, he can even citadel him, because it's a tier 6 carrier. If he just aims low enough, he can easily, well, there's the engine broken, but he can also get citadels in with that HE, because the armor is so very thin on this ship. He just needs to hit the central spot, and there we go, finally some citadels. Now, if anything though, this fight, even though it was quite a clumsy fight, and perhaps there could have been a fair bit of improvement in this fight, it still goes to show that you really don't need to be a superstar to play for the team. Because this guy here, even though like people might criticize and laugh at this play when it comes to killing this carrier, he still won the spotting competition. He played the entire side in front of his battleships on this flank. He constantly stayed within range of all of them, constantly kept spotting them all for his team, and with 122,000 spotting damage, he absolutely deserved to take the top spot here. Absolutely no doubt that he was the deserving winner. So very well done. I mean, what else can I say at this point? He was guaranteed a deserving winner. Now he's running away from these planes to get unspotted. I think he gets like a bunch of small spotting damage additional here, but it's not really that big of a deal. And when we look at the team, the score wise, well, only 48k damage. He didn't really rack up too much additional damage here, and the scoreboard doesn't really reflect his influence. But when we look at the detailed report, very well done. Deserving winner. What else can I say? There was a strict set of rules on how to win, and Elsteg beat them all. So absolutely a deserving winner once again. Congratulations, and you will be getting the USS Kid. Finally, of course, I have some honorary winners, and if you guys expand the description below the vid, there you will see the guys who will be picking up a CC container for some rather hilarious entries that they've sent in, or just for entries that I considered impressive and worthy of the honorary mention. Thank you all for participating. I hope you guys enjoyed this competition, and personally I am very, very happy with how it turned out, because this competition proved that, well, you really don't have to be the best player to play for your team. And I think that's a pretty important lesson to keep in mind. Thank you all, and I will talk to you guys later.